personal computers. Even some of the earliest word processors had a spell check feature that suggested alternative words if a word you typed did not appear in its internal dictionary. Then, in 2007, Microsoft Word introduced the contextual speller, or grammar check, the green squiggly lines under sentence fragments in your documents. Today, even cell phones have an autocorrect function. Instead of suggesting how to fix your messages, this function automatically replaces your words as you type them. While this is convenient, many times it results in negative outcomes. So we have Haley here today, and we're going to ask you a few questions about autocorrect.
Okay.
All right. So how often on a daily basis do you think you use autocorrect?
Never, because I do not have a smartphone.
Oh, you don't have a smartphone?
No, I do not.
Even better. Okay. So what about like on your computer, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, things like that?
If I'm typing a document, usually for English, I might misspell a few words, and I use it definitely.
All right. So we have Jillian Brennan here, and we are just going to ask you a few questions about autocorrect. Okay. On a regular basis, how often do you think you use autocorrect?
Every day.
Every day. So you have an iPhone?
iPhone.
Okay. Great. And what do you think that? How do you think that affects your grammar? The autocorrect.
I mean, it makes it easier to type, so I don't have to type as much. So I'm not really thinking about it, but it's a lot. It's really helpful. So.
Okay. And in your opinion of autocorrect would be?
Very useful, but annoying when it messes up text messages.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. We have Becca here, and we are going to ask her a few questions about autocorrect. Okay. All right. So, do you have a smartphone?
I do not.
You do not. But do you use autocorrect on like Google Docs or Microsoft Word?
Definitely. Definitely use it.
Okay. How often do you think when you're typing papers you use autocorrect?
I think it probably does most of the capitalization for me.
Most of the capitalization?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that might help or hinder your grammar when it comes to actually like physically writing out a paper?
It does hinder it. It definitely does. And it puts in apostrophes for me as well. So I have been known to forget an apostrophe.
Okay.
In there.
So if you did have a smartphone, there's a function on there where you could turn on or off autocorrect. Do you think you would have it on or off?
It's shameful to admit, but I think I'd have it on.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Our research team wanted to find out a little bit more about the goals of autocorrect. So today, we have a representative from Microsoft Office. She is on the autocorrect branch at Microsoft Office. Do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
No problem. I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Okay, great. So, in general, what is the goal of autocorrect?
At Microsoft Office, we really strive to make our customers' lives easy. Whether you're shooting a text, writing an email, writing a report, writing a paper, we want our customers to have what they need right at their fingertips, right then and there, and we want to make their lives convenient. And autocorrect can do that.
Okay, great. So this service of autocorrect that you provide, do you think it might have an effect on our society's ability to spell?
Well, we live in a society today that's very fast-paced. And so in order for us to keep up with that, we use our function of autocorrect to keep up with that fast pace, and so our customers can have everything they need right at their fingertips.
Isn't it kind of interesting how a representative from autocorrect branch at Microsoft wouldn't even address our question about the effect that autocorrect might have on education? We have Dr. Emma Pressel here today with us. She is the director of the English language department at a local university. She used to previously teach English language at a middle school level for 4 years, and if I'm not mistaken, for another 6 years at the high school level, and then decided to come here to this university and become the director of the English language department. So we would like to talk to you a little bit about autocorrect, and we're wondering your opinion on autocorrect and what its effects might be on education.
Oh, I absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it. You know, I feel like my students nowadays, they just automatically type things and the spell checker automatically corrects it for them, so they never really look back and see what they have typed, and they never bother to learn any of the words anymore.
When you were a student versus now when you're a teacher, do you think that it's a little bit different having autocorrect now versus when you were a student?
Oh yeah, because I used to write out all my assignments and then I'd type it up on my typewriter, and I feel like viewing it once and then reviewing it again gave me some spell check advantages by myself to correct myself, and I feel like students nowadays could use that process as a learning opportunity.
Okay. So you feel like the convenience that our society is looking for of having that spelling tip right there at their fingers is prohibiting
Yeah,
them from-
because it doesn't, I'm sorry for cutting you
No,
off,
no.
but it doesn't force them to make the correction themselves. It's a machine making the correction for them.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
But just
In
because-
further conversation with Dr. Pressel, she did mention to me that she was recently reading a study from the International Journal of English Studies that showed that these features of autocorrect may have prevented the student writers from revising their superficially neat-looking but unfinished writing.
I am the mother of a high school student, and the other night I was proofreading one of their assignments, and I noticed a high amount of spelling errors. And I was thinking to myself, with all this new technology and texting and whatnot, my child is not learning basic spelling, and I was really worried. And so I was talking to one of my close family friends, Mark Goldling, and he was telling me that he was also thinking about this, and he mentioned to me at how these spelling errors are going to affect them in their future with like resume writing, and companies aren't really going to find them as valuable employees. So I think it's very important that our education needs to focus more on spelling.
We have Mr. Talberg here from Howell High School, a teacher at Howell High School, and we would like to ask you a few questions about autocorrect.
Okay.
Okay, so approximately how often do you think you use autocorrect on a daily basis?
Not even daily.
Not even daily?
No.
Do you have a smartphone?
Yes.
Yes.
It's brand new.
Oh, really? Okay, and did your old phone have autocorrect on
It
it?
did not. It had one of those things where you put the buttons.
Okay, and the new one does have autocorrect?
Yes.
Do you use the autocorrect function?
Yes, I do.
You do. Why do you choose not to use the off function on autocorrect?
Because I make more mistakes without autocorrect.
Okay. So then, in general, what would your opinion be of autocorrect and how it affects education?
How it affects education?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it probably makes people look smarter than they are, but it requires them to think less than they should.
Okay.
So it probably has a negative impact on education.
On education. Okay. Thank you. I recently received an email from a high school teacher, English teacher, who wanted to give her input on autocorrect and how it affects her classroom. Her email says, I teach 9th and 11th grade English, and regardless of the age, my students' spelling is atrocious. Texting does not and has not helped. Papers are being written using poor punctuation, bad grammar, and inappropriate abbreviations.
A couple years ago, I was also interested in this autocorrect generation phenomenon, so I took a survey. And I tested 2,000 adults, and 1 out of the 5 adults failed a short spelling test. We found that 65% failed to spell the word necessary, and that 33% struggled
We
with
have Tyler
definitely
here, and
and
we would just
separate.
like to ask you a few questions about autocorrect.
That's fine by me.
Okay, great. How often do you think you use autocorrect on a regular basis?
The only time I use Autocorrect is on Microsoft Word because that's efficient. But as for cell phones, I'm totally against it.
Okay, so you have a smartphone, correct? Okay, and you have your autocorrect function turned off?
Turn off at all times.
Okay, why is that?
Because Autocorrect always assumes things. It's too assuming. I think that if you're trying to write one word and all of a sudden it changes another, it could be a huge problem because you could accidentally not notice that that word was changed and then send it to someone, totally ruining your entire sentence.
Okay, so we have Kathleen here, and we are going to ask you a few questions about autocorrect. Okay. All right. So, do you have an iPhone or smartphone?
I recently got an iPhone.
Oh, you did? So, the previous phone before your iPhone, did that have autocorrect?
It did.
What was your opinion from transferring between one phone without autocorrect and a new phone with autocorrect?
I do not like autocorrect at all.
Really?
I try to be autocorrect
Okay. Very good. Okay. Why don't you like autocorrect?
because I feel like it doesn't let people think for themselves about using grammar and using apostrophes and capitalization. And I'm kind of an English nerd like that.
Okay, but doesn't it just make it quicker and easier?
It does, but I don't like that.
Throughout our research, we have spoken to teachers, parents, students, and professionals and have found that autocorrect is not as harmless as we thought. The function that we use on a daily basis to correct our grammar and spelling mistakes has had more significant impact than we could have ever thought. It has hindered our use of the English language. Many no longer know how to properly use commas, apostrophes, capitalization, or determine when sentences are fragments. Simple spelling tasks are now performed by technology. While this function is quick and convenient, we need to realize how it is affecting our English language skills.